Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel called Bill Kirchenbauer. Sometimes I do videos from Bangkok when I'm living there. Today I wanted to do this is kind of one of these videos that I've done, and I hope to do them, maybe one or two a week on different subjects. But a lot of people always ask me, how is a sitcom made? If you don't know, I started in a sitcom called Just the 10 of Us for about 3 years on ABC, like 89, 90, or 88, 89, 90. And it was fairly successful. I had a good time and it reran a lot. But I've always been amazed by the uh, unknowledgeableness of people about how a sitcom is made. A lot of them think you do it in one day, and you don't. So I'm going to run over how a sitcom is made. I also want to let you know that I've done movies and I've done sitcoms and different forms of entertainment, and I really like sitcoms. I like television because it's the job where you can still have a pretty normal life, where you get up and go to work and come home and go to bed and sleep in your own bed and go to work. So it's a pretty good gig if you can get it. And I happen to live about a mile from the studio that we shot in. The stage itself was literally the closest uh, stage to my house. I could walk there. I used to ride my bike. I take my lunch. I felt like I was, take naps in the afternoon. I felt like I was back in second grade. So anyway, here's how a sitcom is made. The first thing that has to be done, it has to be written. Writers are very, very, very important in a sitcom, and they really work their asses off. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So what happens is about Sunday night, you'll get a knock at your door, and it'll be a runner from the show, and they'll have a script for you. Now, this is the first time you've ever seen this script, and not all sitcoms run on a Monday to Friday uh, schedule, because a lot of these cameramen have to be always working, and they can't all work on Friday. So some sitcoms will be Tuesday through Monday or Wednesday through Tuesday. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, this particular one is a Monday through Friday. You'll get this door knocking, and they'll give you a script, and you read over the script. You should read over the script so you know what you're doing. And the next day you go to work, and they have what they call a table read. And that's exactly what it is. It's a big table, and everybody's sitting around it. There's some people from this network, some people from the studio, actors, just about everybody that works on this show. And the average sitcom can have a couple of hundred people that work on this show, between editors and actors and the production people and the writers, the directors, the makeup people, the costume people, the set. I mean, just hundreds of people work on this. People have no idea. Not everybody gets a credit. There's a lot of people that don't get credits, and they still work on the show. So they have the table read, and it's exactly what it is. You read the script, and everybody gets to hear it. The writers get to hear the actors say the lines that they've written. And then at this point, different studios do different things. Some studios, production shows, they say, okay, goodbye, and you go home, and you're home by noon. They did this on Frasier when I worked on that, and I was, really? Oh yeah, yeah, you can go home. And what happens is, the writers, now that they've heard it, they start to rewrite, and you go home. Now on my show, that's not how it worked. You did the table read, and then you went over to the stage and you started doing what they call the blocking. A blocking is where everybody figures out where they're going to stand, what they're going to do. Are you going to drink a beer while you say this? Are you going to be sitting at a table? What are you going to do? And you have the script in your hand, and you slowly, during that day, go to lunch, you come back during that day, you kind of work out what it's basically going to be. Who's going to be coming down the stairs? Who's going to be ironing? What you're going to be doing. And then about 5, 6 o'clock, they have a run through. Now, this run through usually consists of, again, maybe some network people, maybe not some network people. They don't come in quite yet because things aren't finished. Maybe a studio person, maybe not a studio person, but everybody, the writers, the directors, and everybody come in and watch you run through. Now, again, you're on a book, and this is a type of acting I call book acting, which means you don't want to memorize this, because it probably won't be that way. So you don't bother memorizing. You act with the script in your hand. You run through the show as good as you can, by saying it and reading it and looking and acting it out and doing the blocking that you learn because you made notes in the script. And you run through that. They give you applause. Thank you very much. I used to throw that script in the trash and I'd go home because it would be different. And they would rewrite this thing. People don't understand how many rewrites there are. I will say one thing: out of all the sitcoms I did, I don't think I've ever run across a situation where they rewrote it and it wasn't for the better. It always improves it. They cut things, they clip things. So, it's always for the better. Okay, now it's Tuesday morning. You come in, here's your script. Again, you can go through it. It could be totally changed. It could be kind of changed. It could be changed just a little bit. And again, I say the writers work so hard. I remember I used to drive in the morning about 9 or 10 o'clock into the studio, and I'd see them leaving because they were there since 6 o'clock that last night and we're there all night and working on stuff. And they go home at 9 o'clock in the morning, take a nap or two, and come back in the afternoon. Okay, so now we've got this new script. And you take that script and you spend all day blocking that too. So you block that and you figure out who's going to do that. And right about now, you got to start to kind of memorize things. When I worked on Mork and Mindy, the first day, Monday, was always just kind of a screw around day. You could play with things. Robin would say things. You could throw things in. And it was really loose. And then as it got closer to the taping, you knew what you were going to do. On my show, not so much. I wasn't really permitted to improvise, which I felt was shorting me and the show because I figured that's why they hired me. But things were pretty locked in. So on Tuesday, you go through the whole day and block it again. And then the producers come in and they watch you run through the show. And still, you're on the book because you just got this morning. So you're on the book. Again, they watch it and they say, thank you very much. You go home. Very often I throw it in the trash again. So now it's Wednesday morning. Now, Wednesday, you're tightening stuff up. You should pretty much know your script. Sometimes that night, they'll send you a rewrite. I'll go home on Tuesday, and that evening, about 9 or 10 o'clock, I'll get a rewrite. And then Wednesday, you come in, and you have to learn that rewrite. You got to get it done. You don't have to be totally off book, but you should know what you're doing by now. And again, then you rehearse all day and you'll run the show once, you'll run the show twice, you'll run the show 3 times, you'll go through it. Again, now it's Wednesday afternoon, there's a run through. Now, this is the big run through. This is where the networks show up and the studio shows up and everybody shows up and there might be 150 people there. And you should kind of be off the book, but you can still hold it. What you don't want to do is not have the book so that you go, what was that? What was my line? Oh yeah. So you can still kind of have the book, but you should be off book kind of, but you can have the book. So you run through the show. Now that's the big run through. That's kind of the end of the production people have presented to the network. This is what we're going to do. And the studio comes in, they start arguing about what you can say and what you can't say and censorship. And there's a few little tweaks maybe. And again, Wednesday night, you might get another script with some minor adjustments in it, maybe some actual adjustments. Now it's Thursday. Thursday is blocking day. What is blocking day? Blocking day is not for you, the actor. It is for the cameraman, for them to figure out what it is you're going to do. And it's a whole long, slow process. It's not about acting. It's about where the cameras are going to be and where they shoot and their little ballet of electronic camera dance. Because there might be as many as 5 to 6 cameras rolling around on the floor. So they have to make sure they don't bump into each other and get in each other's way. They need to know when you're going to get up and yell and walk across the room fast. So this a whole day devoted to blocking. They put pieces of tape on the floor so you know you were supposed to stand. And this is where the nuances of acting come in. If you're supposed to go from point A to point B and say, I think we should go to the dentist before he closes. And you're supposed to end on the word closes and be over here. You can't end that line in the middle You have to end it here, and you have to find your light. It's a whole little thing. You have to walk and chew gum at the same time is what it really is. And you have to be, and you can't be screwing around. They expect you to be there, and it's a whole dance, and they want to know where you're going to be and what you're going to do, and it's for the camera. So you spend all day doing that, and that can go into the evening sometimes because that's the technical aspect. Now it's Friday. Again, different studios do different things differently, but I'll give you the two options. In my show, what we would do is we would come in about 10 o'clock and we would record the whole show without an audience, just like a movie. There was no audience. The writers used to sit around and laugh, and they would laugh because they would mix that in with the audience later on. But we'd shoot the whole show like a movie, and then that would take us till about 5 o'clock. There'd be a break. You'd have dinner. They'd bring in a catering people. They'd have a nice dinner. You could maybe take a little nap for half an hour or so, go get your makeup, and then they would bring in an audience. We would record then the whole show in front of the audience. Now, some studios do it like this. You don't come in early. You come in about noon, and about 5 o'clock, you rehearse maybe a little bit, and then about 5 o'clock, they bring in an audience, and you do the whole show in front of that audience. And then there's a break. Then you have dinner. Then you come back, and then they bring in another whole audience. And you do two. So in effect, you do two shows in front of two different live audiences. My show, we shot like a movie. We did one show in front of one live audience. And then after that is happening, they do a thing called pickups. They send the audience home. And what they do is they do little things that they couldn't do or they missed. Maybe the camera has to come way in and show your hands, and they can't do that during the live shoot because the cameras would see a camera going in. So they do these little pickups, things that were kind of, again, maybe didn't work in the other shoots that they did, but now they're going to pick these little things up. And after all of that is gone, and then all of that is done, and that can go for, depending on how complicated things are, that can go to midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I've been there at 2 o'clock in the morning shooting things. And that's how a sitcom's made. It's not made in one day. A lot of people say, "Oh, what day do you make it? How long do you do it?" I will say another thing. There was a very famous sitcom actor. I won't tell you who he was, but he came to me after I had done my show, and he said, "Bill, I got this sitcom I got to do." And he said, "How do you remember all that stuff? I mean, you have like a half an hour. It's not really a half an hour. It used to be 22 minutes, and not all of that is you." But he would say, "How do you remember all those lines?" And I told him about something that I had learned earlier, which is this. I think it was Socrates, and had a habit of walking through the garden, and he would gardens memorizing his speeches. And what he would do was he would physically connect. It's a memory trick with he'd be by the roses, and he'd talk about the beauty of Rome or Greece or whatever it was. He'd talk about then he'd be by the palm trees, and he'd talk about so what I'm saying is the physicality of what you're doing on the set, looking in the refrigerator, drinking the beer, sitting on the couch, doing that, laying in bed. Those things are the things that trigger the lines in your head. So because you're doing these things and you have physical things to connect the verbal things to, that's how you can remember, a half-hour show. I really enjoyed doing my sitcom. It was some of the best times I've ever had. Really, you do become a family because, and I'm not just talking about the actors, but the crew. They have people. They have like 3 people that just spend time on making sure that the table, the snack table over there is prepared. That they have tortillas and they have cookies, or they'll have hot dogs and constant food. And that's the problem with having this sitcom too. Is if you're over there and you got a good craft services, is what they call it. You got a good craft services guy over there. They're laying out food all the time, and it can be you can put on a lot of weight just going over there picking on potato chips in between shots. So anyway, that's how a sitcom is made. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was entertaining. and it certainly is how they do it. And I have every time I watch a sitcom, I always look and think, wow, that is really that's how it's done. They're a lot of work. So anyway, thank you very much, and tune in if you have any questions you'd like to ask. I'm going to be answering questions about show business. I think my next talk is going to be how do you get into show business? I have people ask me that a lot. How do you get into show business? So anyway, this is Bill Kirchenbauer. Take care, and talk to you later. Oh, I think I'm still running. Ah, there you go. Oh, geez, how embarrassing. See, this is what happens when you're live. This is why they videotape stuff. Yes, there you go.